A very good morning, everybody, and welcome along to day 2, round 2, Deutsche Kart-Meisterschaft 2026, here at the wonderfully fast Kart Arena Cheb, just 15 minutes away from the Czech Republic border. And a warm welcome to everyone watching along on the ADAC Motorsports YouTube channel. And we are just in the build-up phase for our superheats this morning, which will then see drivers get their assigned grid positions for this afternoon's final. So we'll have two broadcasting parts here live on the ADAC Motorsports YouTube channel. Alex Goldschmidt up in the commentary position, and we are really looking forward to another great day of racing. So, von meiner Seite herzlich willkommen bei Kart Arena Cheb für Tage Nummer 2, für den zweiten Termin von Deutsche Kart-Meisterschaft. Saison 2026 in Tschechien. Und im Moment, wir sehen blau im Himmel und die Sonne scheint, aber es gibt eine Möglichkeit, dass nochmal wie gestern, bevor dem ersten von den 14 Qualifying Heats, es gibt eine Möglichkeit, dass Regen vielleicht kommt hier ganz in die Nähe von der deutschen Grenze, hier bei Kart Arena Cheb. Und jetzt, wir haben schon den Superheats heute Morgen und dann die Finalen. So, the circuit itself, 1,202 meters, a very, very long straightaway heading from turn 1 all the way up to turn 2. And then it gets very, very technical. We did have a DKM challenge earlier on during the weekend where the drivers were asked to actually draw the track with some very, very interesting shapes and sizes, let's say. But great to see everyone in good form. Very, very close battles out on track. And we will very shortly be getting underway with our first of what will be 6 superheats. And the big thing will be is that we have 46 KZ2 Cup drivers. After the superheats, we will round that down to 36 finalists for the finals this afternoon. So, eine Minute bis zum Formationsrunde für unseren ersten Superheat heute Morgen, OKN. Renndistanz auf dieses Mal wird 15 Runden von diesen 1202 Meter langen Strecke hier in Tschechien. So 30 seconds to go until the drivers are released from the dummy grid. Und gleich geht's los mit unserem ersten von 6 Superheats heute Morgen hier am Kart Arena Cheb. 15 Runden für 29 Piloten in Klasse OKN. Und hier ist die Startaufstellung. Nach dem Ranking of the Heats ist die Martina Rumlenova auf Pole Position und an der ersten Reihe auch startet der Lennart Frey vom ADAC Motorsport. Jakub Kamenik und Ben Götz auf Reihe Nummer 2, Reihe 3. Startet Rick Nadine aus Luxemburg und Konstantin Papst führende in die Meisterschaft in diesem Moment. Dann auf Platz 7 und 8 startet Elias Ebersdobler und Jan Schwarzer. Und dann den letzten Reihe in den Top 10 startet Adrian Lorenz und der Maxim Becker. Row 6, Lionel Honecker and Niklas Simic. Row 7, Samuel Valea and Julius Berthold. Marius Bonconce and Ben Fritz starts on row number 8. They'll be joined by the likes of Emilio Bernd, Conor McPoylin, Maximilian Englistetter and Charlotte Tiller, who completes the top 20. Und die letzten 9 Piloten auf die Startaufstellung sind Jan Scheitel, Tom Wickhoff, Johannes Müssotter, Jan Weibel, Len Abbas, Ines Koch, Henry Melchior, Mir Deutsche und der Pilot aus Spanien, der Nummer 184, Sebastian Welker Morel. Der hat ganz großes Pech gestern. Und jetzt sind wir auf die Formationsrunde mit einem fliegenden Start wie normalerweise bei OKN. Und gestern haben wir schon viele Zweikämpfe, besonders am Spitze des Felds, mit Teilnehmern zum Beispiel Martina Humlenova, Lennart Frey, Ben Götz, Rick Nadin und Jakub Kamenik. I have seen that Mir Deutsche in the 113 not crossing the timing beam, so the driver might be starting from the dummy grid and then will be released. Rumlanova and Frey yesterday both picked up a win apiece, but Rumlanova, local to this track here at Kart Arena Cheb, running in the MVM racing colours, and ADAC Motorsport occupying the outside of the 2 front rows, the inside of row number 3, as we are set and ready to get super heat action underway here on Sunday morning for round 2 into the tram lines. Revs up. And it is going to be a false start. Leider ist der Start nicht freigegeben. So, nochmal eine Formationsrunde am heutigen Sonntagmorgen. So a complete reset, and I've got to do it all again. And this is where the pressure really builds up. The drivers, especially drivers of this age, really start to put big pressure on themselves. Und für das Wetter im Moment 19 Grad Lufttemperatur, Windrichtung Nordost, 5 Kilometer, 5 km/h, Humidität ungefähr 67%. Es gibt natürlich wie gestern den Himmel, aber die Sonne scheint, Strecke ist trocken und wir sind nochmal wieder bereit für the start. So, there are some clouds overlooking the circuit, but sun is shining here at Kart Arena Cheb. We are ready for a second attempt as the drivers go into the tram lines. Revs up, lights on. Und jetzt, wir sind unterwegs. Start ist freigegeben und ein Unfall am Hinter des Felds in Kurve Nummer 1, aber jetzt ist der Lennart Frey am Spitze, vorne von, ich denke, das ist der Ben Götz auf Platz 2, vorne von Rumlanova. Now into the technical infield section. So Lennart Frey, qualifying Heat 2 winner yesterday, is leading, but Ben Götz stuck his nose up there and it's had to make Martina Rumlanova to check up. Das ist der Konstantin Papst, der 111, den in die Meisterschaftswertung nach dem Saisonauftakt in Müsen. Jetzt hat er nochmal einen Platz verloren. Jetzt ist er auf Platz 5. Hinter der Jakub Kamenik aus Tschetschen. Aber nach einer Runde Vorsprung zwischen Frei und Götz. Und Götz versucht innerseits am Kurve 2 vorbeigehen. Und jetzt hat er geschafft, aber wird wirklich eng sein, das zu passieren. But Ben Götz just about gets through on teammate at ADAC Motorsport. Lennart Frey for the race lead at turn 2. Und jetzt kommt die Humlenova innerseits. Jetzt ist die Pilotin auf Platz 2. Und jetzt kommt anderer Teilnehmer in den großen Kampf an Spitze des Felds. Und jetzt ist der Rignadin aus Luxemburg. Der dritte Pilot von ADAC Motorsport jetzt auf Platz 5 nach einem Überholmanöver gegen Konstantin Papst. Und jetzt ist der Ben Götz nach 2 Runden der neue Führende in dieses Rennen mit einem Vorsprung über Martina Rummelinova, 13 eine Sekunde ungefähr. Vorne von Lennart Frey, Jakub Kamenik, Rignadin, schnellste Runde seit beide, Nummer 114. Auf Platz 4. Und leider für 3 Piloten. Es gibt einen Non-Starter bei Mir Deutschler, den die Pilotin Nummer 113. Auch Pech für Johannes Mussotter, Tom Wickert und Jan Weibel. Leider für alle 3 ist das Rennen vorbei. Ein neuer Positionwechsel am Spitze. Jetzt ist die Rumlinova vorne von Ben Götz. So Martina Rumlinova takes the lead from Ben Götz. And the lead that she had over the line after 3 laps was 0.11 of a second. And now here goes Ben Götz up the inside. And here comes Lennart Frey. Rumlinova will keep her elbows out through the twisty section. Lennart Frey nearly stumbles here or there. Rumlinova to the inside and gets back through. And now Rick Nadine, Konstantin Papst, and also I think that is maybe you've got Kamenik. Oh, what a big moment there for the 114. Kamenik onto the grass sideways. Und jetzt vorbei geht. Es ist ein Teamkampf im Moment für Platz 3. Lennart Frey gegen seine Teamkollege aus Luxemburg, Rick Nadine. Nochmal eine Runde vorbei, nach 4 Runden. Götz hat einen Vorteil über Rumlinova. Das ist knapp in die Nähe von 19 eine Sekunde nach 4 Runden. Und jetzt nochmal. Das wird wirklich eng. Ui, die beiden Teamkollegen hat ein kleines bisschen Kontakt zwischen Lennart Frey und Rick Nadine für Platz 3. Und jetzt innerseits geht der Kamenik vorbei an Nadine. Dann in diesen Kampf kommen nochmal Piloten, zum Beispiel Konstantin Papst, Jan Schwarzer, Elias Ebersdobler ist auch da. Und vielleicht der Niklas Simic. So there are a lot of drivers getting very close indeed. And there's nearly a 3-wide exchange a little bit further back going to the final sector. But after lap 5 of 15, Ben Götz leads. Rumlinova sets a new fastest lap. Rick Nadine, Jakub Kamenik, Lennart Frey, Konstantin Papst, Elias Ebersdobler, Lionel Huneker now up 3 positions, started on 11th on the grid. Sebastian Verga-Morel, watch out for the Spanish Matador. Up 16 spots, now 13th and climbing. Das Kampf zwischen Jakub Kamenik und der Lennart Frey für Platz 4 geht weiter so. But it is about strategy. These super heats and the finals later on, they are longer, they are more stressful on the mind and the body. And Ben Götz's lead has been truncated by half. Rumlinova, new fastest lap, a 52.072. She took over 4 tenths out of the lead of Ben Götz, and she's really close heading into turn 2. Nochmal beste Runde seit bei Martina Rumlinova. Und den Vorsprung ist nicht jetzt 18 eine Sekunde, aber nach 6 Runden. Rundezeit von Rumlinova 52,072. 2, Ben Götz 52,485. So ein Vorteil mit guter Leistung und Pace bei die Pilotin auf Startnummer 121. So Rumlanova over 5/10 quicker. Ben Götz has just responded with the fastest lap of this race. So we're nearly at half distance in what has been a titanic battle with some of the big protagonists in the championship fight. Of course, after this, we've still got the final, and that's going to be 19 laps as there's going to be an overtake. Good move by Konstantin Papst and gets through for position. That would be on Niels Ebersdobler. Ebersdobler responds. Oh, but Jan Schwarzer in the 125. Well, it's actually Milan Hönecker in the 125. And this is allowing Jan Schwarzer, Niklas Simic to also close in. Das Konkurrenzfähigkeiten zwischen alle Piloten sind ganz, ganz eng, ganz hart und auch meistens ganz fair. Schnellste Rundezeit jetzt bei der Nummer 114, Jakub Kamenik mit der schnellsten Rundezeit dieses Rennen, 51,813. Schnellstes zweites Sektor war bei Ben Götz, aber jetzt ist es bei Konstantin Papst mit 16,919. Zweiten Sechser, bester von allen. Aber er versucht nochmal wieder vorbeigehen bei der Lies Ebersdobler, der Nummer 131. Nochmal 6 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge. But Martina Rumlanova has just put in the fastest lap of the race, 51.766 for the MVM racing driver. So the big thing is it's going to be more points on offer here in the superheat. And if Rumlanova stays where she is, she puts herself on pole position for the final later on, which will be the first one after the lunch break. Aber leider gibt es nochmal Pech für einen anderen Pilot, der Pilot aus Irland, Conor McPoylin. Aber nochmal ist es ein gutes Zweikampf zwischen Jakub Kamenik und der Rick Nadine. Kamenik jetzt Dritte, aber nochmal kommt Versuch. Ein ganz großes Angriff von Richtung Rumlanova, vorwärts an Ben Götz. So Rumlanova. If anyone might remember what she did to Jakub Kamenik on the first qualifying heat yesterday, well, expect the same. She knows this track like the back of her hand. And Ben Götz, okay, this is a new circuit for a lot of the competitors with over 30 guest drivers from the Czech Republic here this weekend. But this was the spot where Rumlanova managed to get through on Jakub Kamenik with 2 laps to go. Aber das Vorteil zwischen Rumlanova und seiner Landesmann Jakub Kamenik ist 3,3 Sekunden. Nochmal bessere Unterseite in Richtung Lias Ebersdobler, der Nummer 131. Mit einer Rundezeit von 51,536. But front and center is this battle between ADAC Motorsports' Ben Götz and MVM Racing's Martina Rumlanova. And you can just see that she is patiently waiting. And what Ben Götz is effectively indirectly doing is pulling the Czech Republic driver along. That just goes to show strategy in these longer races. If you're the one that is in second position, you're not punching the hole in that dirty air, and then they're expanding the gap to Kamenik. It's now up to it's nearly 3.4 seconds at the minute. Aber hinter Kamenik und Nadine gibt es einen Dreikampf zwischen Ebersdobler und jetzt kommt der kommt der Konstantin Papst innerseits von Lennart Frey. Der hat den zweites Qualifying Heat gestern Nachmittag gewonnen. So, Platz Nummer 6, denke ich, oder 4. Aber jetzt Anführende in dieses Rennen, jetzt die Piloten um Martina Rumlenova mit 2 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge für den ersten Superheat heute Morgen am heutigen Sonntag. But the thing is, Rumlenova cannot make a mistake. And this will put her on provisional pole position for the final this afternoon. Aber der Ben Goetz, Spitzname Houdini von ADAC Motorsport, hat sehr guter Pace, sehr gute Leistung. Und er versucht nochmal wieder vorbeigehen, innerseits, aber dieses Mal kann das nicht passieren, bei Ben Goetz die Martina Rumlenova zu überholen. Aber letzte Runde läuft, last lap underway. Rumlenova leads by a quarter of a second from Ben Goetz, who was looking to try with a few corners to go to get through on the Czech Republic driver. And because they are starting to battle, Kamenik has got the likes of Rick Nadine not too far away. They're coming through the S sections for the last time into the very tight and technical infield. Und leider gibt es Pech für nochmal einen Pilot, der Nummer 109, Jan Schwarze aus Deutschland. Leider ist für sie den Rennen vorbei, aber wir sind so letzte paar Kurven gekommen. Last couple of corners, Rumlenova has done exactly what she set out to do. Stay waiting, and she wins the Superheat on her home track after 15 laps. Ben Goetz takes P2. Jakub Kamenik rounds out the top 3, followed by Rick Nadine from Luxembourg, and Lies Ebersdobler rounds out the overall top 5. Gratulation an die Piloten Martina Rumlenova. Am heutigen Sonntagmorgen Sieger bei den Superheat in Klasse OKN nach 18,03 Kilometer Renndistanz hier in am Kart Arena Cheb. So, Rumlenova takes the win ahead of Ben Goetz, Jakub Kamenik, Rick Nadine, and Lies Ebersdobler rounds out the top 5. Sechster, Konstantin Papst. Siebter, Lennart Frey. Vorne von Lionel Hünecker, Marius Bonconsey und der Emilio Berndt, der über Start und Ziel ist 10. geworden. Sebastian Perca-Morel, the Spaniard, makes his way from the back of the grid to finish P11, ahead of Nicolas Simic. Und dann vorne von Adrian Lorenz, Ben Fritz, Maxim Becker auf Platz 15. Dann Maximilian Engelstädter, Semel Valea, Julius Berthold, Len Abbas und am Platz 20 die Pilotin aus Deutschland, Charlotte Tiller. Vorne von Henry Melchior, Jan Scheitel und Linus Koch. Leider ist es Pech und das Rennen früh vorbei für Jan Schwarzer, Conor McPoylin, Johannes Mussotter, Tom Wickop und Jan Weibel. But Martina Rumlenova provisionally books her place on pole position for the OKN final this afternoon.
Wir bewegen Deutschland. 22,6 Millionen Mitglieder. Wir kümmern uns um sie. Mehr als 3,6 Millionen Einsätze jährlich. Wir sind immer an ihrer Seite. In der Luft. Auf der Straße. Und auf der Rennstrecke.
Und jetzt geht sie los, die Saison! Motorsport vom Allerfeinsten.
Wir sind bei euch.
The season is about to roar into life.
Wo immer ihr seid. Von Anfang an. bis Träume wahr werden.
The grid is very interesting.
Was für eine Show.
Radio check, 1, 2.
2700 Motorsport-Events. 150.000 Teilnehmer. 2 Millionen Zuschauer.
There is a massive crowd. Rad an Rad. Mehr geht nicht.
Und hinter all dem
Checking flag is out. Well done.
Weltklasse.
stehen 4 Buchstaben.
Well, a really, really good race there to see Martina Rumlinova fight off the advances of Ben Goertz, and again, just showing how closely fought positions can be in the OKN division. But as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to KZ2 for our next race for their superheat coming up very shortly. Now we go to the top tier class in the Deutsche Kart-Meisterschaft. It's KZ2, and it's going to be a 17-lap adventure around this 1,202-meter circuit. So without further delay, let's take you through the starting grid. Francis Emilien Denner will start on pole position, and Daniel Stell, who won the final at Mulsanne 4 weeks ago, lines up alongside on the front row. Marek Skrivan and Matej Broys line up with an all-Czech Republic row number 2. Dion van Verven and Jaden Team, the 2 CS competition drivers, will line up on row 3 ahead of Robert Kindervatter and Norton Andreasen from Sweden. Tommy van der Stroys and Julian Garman will complete the top 10, followed by Sweden's Simon Billman, the Czech Republic's Jiri Safranek, Germany's Matti Vandenbroek and Hjalte Bomer from the Netherlands completing the 14-strong field. So, ranking after heats, Emilian Denner took the 25 points on offer. Won Heat 2, was across the line on the road as the race winner in Heat 1, but had a 5-second penalty due to a jump start. Daniel Stell was thereby declared the winner, and he will take the associated points for P2. But before the ranking after heats, Jaden Teen was the leader in the championship standings to this point. As you can see, it is still very, very dry here at Kart Arena Cheb. There have been reports that there might be incoming weather later on today, but I'll believe it when I see it. The drivers now are going to start forming up. Emilian Denner already in his grid position and is now going to have to wait a little bit of time. And the drivers now will start blipping the throttles. This will help circulate the oil around the engines, and they are very, very highly strung. High revolution, high RPMs, incredible torque that gets thrown to the back axle for these 6-speed shifter karts. As Yeltsi Boomer gets into position. Green flag waves at the back. Drivers instructed to look at the lights. 17 laps here in KZ2 for the Superheat. Denner on pole. Let's get ready to race. And here we go. Even start as Daniel Stell tries to go to the outside of Emilian Denner, who gets a very even start with the German from Kart Shop Amfing, and Marek Skruan might have an opportunity to get to the inside, and Stell goes around the outside at turn 2 of the Frenchman and takes the race lead. Dion van Verven looks to have got through on Matej Broys in the early goings and is now up to P4 in the number 54 CS competition Sodi kart. But Daniel Stell doing a fantastic job just to keep it pinned round the outside. But Emilian Denner knows, so does Stell, so does Marek Skruan, who is in P3, that this is a case of you can't win the race on lap 1, but you can definitely lose a shed load of positions. But Stell starting to extend the lead as we complete the opening lap out of 17. Gap between him and Emilian Denner, just over 0.37 of a second. Dion van Verven now past Marek Skruan for P3. Skruan running also on the Sodi kart. Oh, double waved yellows, and that is at Marshall Post 3. Someone has spun, so I'm wondering if that kart can't get pushed, then that's it, game over. And that is probably going to be more than, well, Yeltsi Boomer is out of the race, and I think it might be Matty van den Broek in the VDB number 76 kart that has come to an abrupt halt. Whether the back axle is seized, I mean, these engines can at times be very, very, they can definitely have a big drama, especially if the engine seizes, the back axle locks up, and then it just spins the kart around. It's a bit like a brake bias system, if you will. Denner now closing in with the fastest lap of the race after lap 2, but Matej Broys, who's now down into P5, has just put in the fastest lap of the race. Simon Billman, I think it might be, actually, because Yeltsi Boomer was out on the very first lap, so I think Simon Billman might also have suffered drama. So the man from Sweden in the number 9, ADAC Motorsport on the Birolart, is out of this race, it looks like. Did not get past the line after lap, well, got past the line, but didn't make it through as, well, you can just see Robert Kindervarter getting his elbows out, trying to get through on Jaden Teen as the CS competition driver. The winner in KZ2 Cup last year. Literally dominated it and has moved up into the big class here in DKM for 2026. And Simon Billman, unfortunately, is a retiree. So 2 drivers already out. But there is a 3-way battle happening for 3rd place, being led by CS Competition's number 54, Dion van Verven from the Netherlands. And he's being chased down by TB Racing Team's Marek Skruan and Formula K SRP's Matej Broys. And Broys has just been the first driver in this race to go sub 50 seconds. 49.965, which is around about 4.5 tenths or so slower than the pole position that Emilian Denner took yesterday morning. So the track is evolving. Daniel Stell now has responded And he's another driver that has gone sub 50 seconds. So has Emilian Denner, so has Skrivan, so has Preuss. And Stell now opens up a lead over Denner to the tune of 0.54 of a second after the opening 4 laps out of 17. Robert Kinderwater, however, in the number 10 kart, has managed to get through for P6 on Jaden Teen. And there is the three-way scrap over P3 at the moment, so Skrivan and Bryce trying to close in on Van Verven. Dion being mechanic by his dad, Wilfred. Still reminds me of the old lad and dad situation that they had when he used to run on CRGs back in the days, Emilian Junior. Jaden Teen has lost the position. Norton Andreasen has also lost the position. And it's to Julian Cameron in the number 8 kart. For another one, well, three drivers on this team. And one of the people actually here in person. Good to see Senna van Valstein here in person as well. Passing on his knowledge and know-how, because he's been in KZ2 for he's been in shifter class racing, shifter kart racing for quite a long time. But we're going to see a change, and that is a very close manoeuvre by Marek Skrivan. And here goes Matej Bryce to the inside of Dion van Verven. Down the straightaway into turn 2, and the number 6 from Formula K SRP. That was definitely on the limits, and he threaded the eye of the needle. Van Verven had to avoid, and here comes Kinderwater with a big, big run of speed, and he's now through on Van Verven. The chain reaction started when it was Marek Skrivan that got through on the inside of turn 1 on Dion van Verven, and then that proverbially opened up the floodgates. But now Van Verven has got a wingman, indirectly speaking, through his teammate Jaden Teen. But Daniel Stell is comfortably opening up a lead over France's Emilian Denner in 2nd place. Skrivan, Preuss, Kinderwater, Van Verven, Teen, Carmen, Andreasen, Van der Stroys round out your top 10. Hasn't been an easy one for Van der Stroys. Right, okay, kart 5, Daniel Stell, 5-second jump start, penalty coming his way. Oh, it seems like karma has hit for the man from Germany, unfortunately. Well, considering the fact that Emilian Denner on qualifying heat 1 yesterday got hit with a jump start penalty as well. So it just goes to show that if you make that slight move forward, it's picked up by race control, and instantly they will then say, yep, that's it, he's jumped the start. Time penalty coming that driver's way as Marek Skrivan again is battling away, and this time you can just see it's not Marek Skrivan, it's going to be Norton Andreasen, I believe, that has got through on Julian Cameron. So the Swede through on the Dutch driver. And that is for P8. So we do have, I think that is, Van der Stroys is embroiled in that battle. And then way back in the distance, coming through turn 2, was Matti Vandenbroek from Germany for VDB Kart Racing on the Birrell Art. And we are nearly at that point of getting to half distance. And Van der Stroys with a late dive bomb up the inside. Got through on Julian Cameron, so the 16-year-old from the Netherlands gets through with a very, very late dive bomb. I'm sure that's going to put a smile on Patrick Dirks' face, the man who's leading the crew at MP Kart Racing Team. And now Van der Stroys has to go after Norton Andreasen, the Swede in front of him in the 96. So what Daniel Stell's strategy will be from now on is to just go out there and push like crazy and try and get rid of as much of that 5-second time penalty as possible. But at the minute, well, Emilian Denner is running about 0.2 of a second behind him. The gap now expands to 1.4 seconds. And Van der Stroys has to go after Norton Andreasen, the Swede in front of him in the 96. So what Daniel Stell's strategy will be from now on is to just go out there and push like crazy and try and get rid of as much of that 5-second time penalty as possible. But at the minute, well, Emilian Denner is running about 0.2 of a second behind him. The gap now expands to 1.4 seconds. Marek Skrivan has the new fastest lap of the race, which is 49.415. And that was a couple of laps ago by the number 58 for TB Racing Team. So including this, we have 7 laps to go. And looking at the sector times, Skrivan has just gone purple in the middle sector. So maybe he might be able to close the gap a little bit more to Emilian Denner. So at the moment, with a 5-second time penalty as we complete lap number 11, Daniel Stell will find himself, demoted to P5. And that will promote Denner, Skrivan, Preuss, and Kinderwarter. And Kinderwarter's done a really good job at the moment. He's jumped up to 5th place at the minute. And Emilian Denner is now coming under pressure from Marek Skrivan from the Czech Republic. So Formula K SRP versus TB Racing Team for 2nd position. And Denner will still get the opportunity. He'll probably be told by his mechanic, okay, just keep that gap where it is. Keep it stationary, keep it planted. Don't miss your marks. And now he's going to be told, yeah, Skrivan's right behind you. And I'm sure that Denner knows that he is. I mean, Emilian Denner is a very, very accredited individual in this category. He's raced in it for a multitude of years, including with us last season, having made a change to Formula K SRP. Of course, the defending champ, well, the driver that took the title last year, came down to the wire at Pro Kart Raceland Circuit in Wackersdorf, of course, Danilo Albanese. But Skrivan right on the rear of Denner as they come out of the final corner. 3 laps to go, and Skrivan is going to get through. Oi, 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 oi. But Denner did the right thing there. He very much kept enough room for Skrivan to make the move and facilitate it. And that just goes to show how quickly decisions can be made. And these drivers are always going to be very, very cautious. But this is still allowing a certain Daniel Stell from the kart shop Amfing to clear away, and his lead now with coming up to 3 laps to go. It was 1 3/4 seconds. Lead gap is now 2.1, and boy, all he needs to do is pull out another couple of attempts, and he'll end up in front of Robert Kinderwarter. So coming up to 2 laps remaining here in the superheat for KZ2. And effectively, with the way things have gone, this will more than likely put, I would say, because the points differential between Emilian Denner and Marek Skrivan was 12 points after the ranking after heat. So this will more than likely put Denner on pole for the final later on today after the lunch break. But 2 to go. Stell leads, and Skrivan is absolutely decimating that gap because he's just put in the fastest lap of the race. 49.316 for the 58 for the TB Racing Team. And Marek Skrivan is trying to close in. I think he wants that win on the road. But if he can keep that as close as he can, and at the moment with the gaps between Stell, Skrivan, Denner and Preuss, it looks like Daniel Stell might have done enough to keep himself in 4th position. It's going to smart a little bit, but you know, there's so many finite tolerances with regards to jump starts in shifter karting. But last lap underway, Stell leading. Skrivan effectively now becomes the de facto leader, and he's got that gap down again Skrivan 2 laps in a row, put in a 49.217. And that gap is going to be absolutely truncated, but it's not going to be enough. If he had another 2 or 3 laps, I would say that Marek Skrivan would be right on the rear bumper and trying to pressurise Daniel Stell into a potential unforced error. But in the meantime, they are heading through into the infield section. And heading to the triangle at the top of the track before we head into the third and final sector. And that gap has come down massively. I think Daniel Stell knows he's not going to win this race if he's seen the 5-second penalty on the Digi flag overlooking the start-finish straight. But it is going to be Daniel Stell that wins, that finishes ahead on the road. But Marek Skrivan will win the superheat. Emilian Denner will inherit second ahead of Matej Brois. And Daniel Stell on aggregate with the penalty now being applied. He is demoted to fourth, so Marek Skrivan becomes the provisional winner of the KZ2 Superheat ahead of Emilian Denner from France in the number 3. So average speed of nearly 87 kilometers an hour by Marek Skrivan, 20.43 kilometers completed by the race winner, number 58. So Skrivan wins after 17 laps. Emilian Denner P2, Matej Brois P3. Daniel Stell taking the checkered flag first, but getting demoted for a 5-second jump start penalty post-race, is demoted to fourth. And he finishes ahead of countryman Robert Kinderwarter, who started 7th, ends up P5. Following him are the 2 CS competition drivers of Dion van Verven and Jaden Teen. Tommy van der Stroys makes it to P8 at the finish ahead of Norton Andreasen and Julian Carmen, who round out the top 10. Matty Vandenbroek was the last of the drivers that crossed the line, but unfortunately Giri Safarinek's race ended abruptly on lap 12. Simon Billman, lap 2, and Hjalte Boomer did not even make it through to the first sector of the race itself. But Skrivan victorious, Denner on provisional pole for the final later on. Und nochmal wieder mit KZ2 Rennaktion auf die Strecke hier im Kart Arena Cheb bei unserem ersten Superheat von 2 für KZ2 Cup. Und jetzt, hier ist die Startaufstellung. Nach gestern hat der Pavel Wimmer sich auf Pole Position erfolgreich sein. Und er hat gestern alle drei Qualifying Heats gewonnen. Und sein Landesmann ist an der anderen Seite von der ersten Reihe, André Pickel. Row 2, Mark Gestenkorn und Martin Antosch. Bei Nummer 3, Jaden Güscheren und Emanuel May. Row 4 will be Oscar Steinbach and Ilian Yankov, followed by the Netherlands' Quinten van Leuven and Radek Vavra, who will complete the top 10. Auf Reihe Nummer 6 startet der Matthias Purcell und der Karl Luthardt. Vorne von Dirk van Sifthout, Khalil Soda, Václav Prochaska, Yannick Remmert, Sascha Dreher, Christopher Sachse, Barry Gregory aus Frankreich und der Maximilian Prederovic. Der startet auf Platz 20. Die letzten 2 Starter sind aus Schweden, Kevin Rosenbeck und der Nummer 452 von Deutschland, Erik Müller. The only driver not to start will be ADAC Motorsports, Noah Kaltenbach in the 424. Nach beiden Superheats, wir könnten nur 36 Teilnehmer für das Finale qualifizieren. So only 36 drivers after the 2 superheats will go through into the capacity grid final. You can only host 36 drivers on that. And that's going to be a lot of karts running around the circuit for what will be a 20-lap final. It is going to be 16 laps as Pavel Wimmer gets to his position on the inside of the front row. And this gives him plenty of time just to compose himself. There is his countryman for Karting Planet SRO on the Sodi Kart. It is a Kart Republic Sodi Kart front row. As everyone now getting into position. There's the 420 from the Netherlands, Quinten van Leuven, now able to jump into the shift. Oh, right. Ich habe schon gesehen, das gibt eine von den Truppen von Mach 1 Motorsport, hat Probleme auf den Start. Ja, nochmal eine Formationsrunde. Ich denke, das war der Pilot aus Lituanien, Khalil Soda, der 417. Hat Probleme auf den ersten Grid bevor dem Start. So that was why race director Kevin Reinhardt said, well, no, it's a non-start because one driver's and it's not the first time we've had that before, where an engine has failed to carry on running, and then all of a sudden the driver will wave their arms as if to say, right, I can't start yet, there's a problem. So that was the universal signal of help. Aber nochmal wieder eine Formationsrunde für Superheat A bei KZ2 Cup. So the all Czech front row are in position. Gaston Korn was very racy. So was Jaden Gushigan yesterday. Aber das Comeback von der Pilot aus Bulgarien, der 412. Man muss auf den Ilian Jankov vorsichtig sein. Und jetzt sind wir bereit. Start ist freigegeben. Problem, denke ich, für Martin Antosch. Aber jetzt ein Dreh in Kurve Nummer 1. Ich denke, das war der Mark Gestenkorn von Mark 1 Motorsport. Aber jetzt ist der Pavel Wimmer wirklich schnell vorwärts gegangen ist. So Pavel Wimmer having a really good start. Drama for, I think it was Mark Gestenkorn, who didn't make it through out of sector 1 because he was spinning through at turn 1 itself, and he's managed to get going again. He's going to be right down at the back end of the field, so the Swiss driver is going to have to make a true comeback. Quinten van Leuven sticks his nose up the inside of the tight left-right complex heading into the final sector. But Pavel Wimmer off the opening lap leads a Czech 1-2-3 because Pikl and Antosh now are battling for second position. Ilian Yankov now up into P4. The Bulgarian, who was disqualified post-qualifying yesterday, now has a chance of really punching his weight up at the sharp end of the field, and is closing in on the two drivers in front of him. Aber leider gibt es Pech nicht nur für der Pilot aus der Schweiz, Mark Gestenkorn, auch bei der Nummer 407. Pech für Emmanuel May. Und beim Ende der ersten Runde für den beiden Piloten ist das Rennen leider vorbei für Gestenkorn und May. Das könnte schwierig sein. Wer würde in den Top 36 Piloten für den Finale heute Nachmittag? Aber jetzt am Führender in dieses Felds, jetzt bleibt der Pavel Wimmer. Der hat alle seine 3 Qualifying Heats gestern Nachmittag gewonnen. Wimmer is looking to go for a true clean sweep. And more to the point, he has won all 3 qualifying heats. We've got 14 laps to go after this, and he is extending a gap. Pikl and Antosh have got Yankov and now Oscar Steinbach. Der Nummer 423 von Kart-Shop Ampfing auf der Birrelart geht immer vorne. Und jetzt neue schnellste Runde seit bei der Steinbach. 50,712. Und jetzt kommt ein Versuch bei der Antosh und er ist jetzt vorbei an Pikl. Positionwechsel für Platz 2. Und jetzt ist der Yankov und der Steinbach ganz kurz hinten. In der Seite geht der Yankov an Pikl und jetzt ist der Bulgarien auf Platz 3 geworden. Nochmal wieder Angriff bei der Pikl, aber he basically, well, Ondrej Pikl had a bit of a moment coming out of the corner, didn't get the traction down, and Oscar Steinbach from Kart Shop Ampfing got through and is now 4th. Er bekommt ein großes Vorsprung in Richtung Wimmer gegen Antosh. 1,8 Sekunden nach 4 Runden. Und wir haben schon 12 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge in dieses Rennen. Und von 22 Starter haben wir jetzt hier an der Strecke 20 Piloten. Der fährt immer weiter hin. So 20 drivers out of the 22 starters are still running, and there are some really great battles starting to emerge in this. Jaden Gushigan being pressurized by Radek Vavra from the Czech Republic in the 458 for TB Racing Team. fastest lap of the race, Oskar Steinbach. Schnellste Runde seit dieses Rennen soweit. 50,353 bei der 423 von Kart-Shop Ampfing. Quincy van Leeuwen's been making some moves up the order as well. He's now up into P6, up 3 spots as the 420 for MP Kart Racing on the Henze chassis, but a moment for the 436. And that is Václav Prochaska from the Czech Republic, who's got Christopher Saxa breathing down his neck. And there is Matthias Purcell there, so there's a lot of toing and froing. Could be a bit of KZ2 Cup musical chairs as we have 10 laps to go. Wimmer sets another new fastest lap of the race, a 50.201. So Van Leeuwen battling away with André Pickel for P5. But again, KZ2 Cup has been rather enthralling and exciting. I have to give a shout out to some good friends, one of which was actually a previous runner with us last year. Greetings to Zurich, to Moritz and Natalie Weber, who are watching along. Look forward to catching up with you guys at the Teil in the next month. But there is a great battle here for what is going to be. That is the 447. The 477 thereof. Dirk van Sift out from the Netherlands. Oh, he's just come across the line. It's a little bit further back. Matthias Purcell has just been passed by Sascha Dreher. Right, okay. Kart 420, Quintin van Leeuwen. Nach dem Unfall hat jetzt der Holländer einen 5 Sekunden Bestrafung, causing a collision. So 5-second time penalty for Quintin van Leeuwen from the Netherlands, running on the Henze chassis for MP Kart Racing. So Quintin van Leeuwen will find himself all the way down outside of the, well, right down at the bottom of the top 14 after that contact. Wimmer, nochmal schnellste Runde seit dieses Rennen, nach 8 Runden von 16. Wir sind halbzeitig dieses Rennen. Von der 433 eine 50,017. Und sein Vorsprung über seinen Landesmann Martin Antosch in der Kart Nummer 454. Knapp in die Nähe von 2,7 Sekunden. Dritter aus Bulgarien, der hat auf Platz 8 gestartet, jetzt Dritter. Ilian Jankov, der 412 von Formula K SRP Race Factory Team. Vorne von bester deutscher Pilot in dieses Rennen soweit. Der 423 aus Deutschland, Oskar Steinbach. Von Kart-Shop Ampfing. Auf Vierter, vorne von André Pickel, Quintin van Leeuwen, Jaden Gushik, Radek Wawra, Yannick Remmert und Dirk van Siftout sind die letzten paar Piloten in eure Top 10 in dieses Rennen. Okay, so wir haben insgesamt mit dieser Runde 7 bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge. So 7 laps to go, including this one, till the checkered flag is shown on the start-finish straight. We still have 20 runners and riders. Jaden Gushigan has just gone purple in the middle sector. Nochmal ein großes Zweikampf zwischen Karl Luthard. Und jetzt geht der Prochaska auf der 436 vorbei in den ersten Teil, den letzten Sektor. And now Pavel Wimmer has really opened the taps on the 433. 3.1 seconds is the advantage. And he's leading his countryman Martin Antosch in the 454 by nearly 3.1 seconds. And that gap is growing every single sector, whether it's 0.08 of a second, whether it's 1/10 of a second. But Ilian Yankov has just set a personal best in the opening sector. Pavel Wimmer has just gone purple in sector 2 with a low 16.3 second sector time. But of course, this is where, leider gibt es Pech. Dann nochmal ein Pilot aus Holland, der 477. Dirk van Siftout. Leider ist das Rennen für der Holländer vorbei. Aber jetzt kommt ein Dreikampf zwischen Quinten van Leuven, Jaden Gushingen und der Radek Wawra, denke ich. Aber es gibt nochmal einen MP Kart Racing Pilot auf die Strecke. Vielleicht, das ist der 410. Christopher Sachse aus Dänemark. Vorne von Matthias Purcell, Erik Müller. Und das ist den Kampf für Platz 13. So battle with P13 between Christopher Sachse, Matthias Purcell, Erik Müller. Pavel Wimmer puts us on to 4 laps to go, and he's expanded that lead. And that's another new fastest lap by the Czech driver. 49.9 seconds, bang on the nose, with a overall fastest middle sector of anybody in this race so far. And jetzt nochmal ein Positionwechsel bei Maximilian Prederovic, der 470 von ADAC Motorsport ist vorbei an der 450 aus Frankreich. Barry Gregory mit dem Formula K SRP Factory Team. So the numbers are increasing in the battle for P13. That's going to probably be a 6-kart battle at the moment. And just behind Matthias Purcell is the 452 Mach 1 Motorsports Erik Müller. Jetzt kommt Angriff Richtung Sachse beim Purcell auf der 447. Jetzt den lange Gerade bis zum Kurve Nummer 2. Uiuiui. Kleines Check-up zwischen Purcell und Müller. And the funny thing is, Christopher Sachs is just parking the kart where he needs to, because he's got right of way. He's the kart in front. And here is the battle for what is P6 on the road, but effectively with Quinten van Leuven's 5-second time penalty post-race for causing a collision. Jaden Gushingen in the 416, representing Germany, and with the factory team for Formula K SRP, that will promote him to P6. But next time around, it will be Pavel Wimmer, who effectively has so far had a 100% strike rate in terms of doing exactly what he needed to do, which was to put it on pole position for the qualifying heats. He won all 3. He put it on pole position for the super heats, and we will have one more lap to go, because Pavel Wimmer is ruling the roost here on a home circuit this weekend. The last lap is underway. Letzte Runde läuft hier beim Superheat A für KZ2 Cup. Und mit einem Vorsprung über 4 Sekunden von ihrem Landesmann Martin Antosch. Da ist der Führende von den Start dieses Rennens, Pavel Wimmer von TB Racing Team. He has done an absolutely sterling job at the front end of the field. And Pavel Wimmer now will head into the final sector. It has been a commanding, conquering victory. Pavel Wimmer continues his dominant run here on home soil as he wins Superheat A and provisionally books himself on pole position for KZ2 Cup for the final later on this afternoon. And it's also a 1-2 for the Czech Republic, courtesy of Martin Antosch and Ilyan Yankov. The comeback is nearly complete for the Bulgarian for Formula K SRP factory team, as the 4-1-2 started 8th, finishes in P3 ahead of Germany's Oskar Steinbach. Steinbach, who was the highest placed of the German drivers in this superheat, as we still got another one to go. André Pickel, Jaden Gushingen, Radek Wawra, Quinten van Leuven, Yannick Remmert, and Sasha Dreher. They round out the top 10, and that is with the 5-second time penalty applied for Quinten van Leuven for causing a collision. Karl Huthard über Start und Ziel Platz 11, vorne von Václav Prochaska, Erik Müller, Christopher Sachser, Maximilian Prederovic, Kevin Rosenbeek, Matthias Purcell, Barry Gregory und von Lituanien Platz 19 für der 417, Khalil Soda. Leider Pech für Dirk van Siftout aus Holland auf am Runde Nummer 10 und beim ersten Runde bei Kurve Nummer 1 Pech für Marc Gestenkorn aus der Schweiz und von Deutschland Emmanuel May.
Let's go racing! Good opportunity to try and make up some places, but there's a lot of battling going on. Takes the victory there, first win in the ADAC GT Masters. Absolutely neck and neck. As always, GT4 Germany entertaining right there.
So, time to get things going for Superheat B for KZ2 Cup. Two drivers won't be going through to the final stages. That will be Viggo Rasmussen, who is a non-starter in this race, and Noah Kaltenbach, who did not start in Superheat A. But let's take you through the starting grid for the 16-lap Superheat B. And it's going to be Oliver Stettler on pole position. Kevin Lantinga alongside him on the front row with an all-German row 2. Manuel Kastel versus Kevin Wagner. Mark Zvanich from Thailand and Marcel Ernst from Germany round out row number 3 with Tomasz Kujela and Valentin Knödel row 4. Nico Bognar and Austria's Adelin Martins round out the top 10. Row 6, Andrzej Juba from the Czech Republic and Estonia's Karl Liesmer. Rick Hartmann and Eric Vess start on row 7 ahead of Jason Doverstein from the Netherlands and Max Hazel from Germany, who complete row 8. Milan van Winden and Matej Karkowski round out row number 9 with Louis Esser, Lukas Lehnert, Julian Bob and Lucy Zimilova rounding out your grid. Viggo Rasmussen, a non-starter, down in 23rd. Diesem Rennen wird es nur 36 Piloten in dieser Klasse bei KZ2 Cup. Die werden in die Finale heute an heutigen Sonntagnachmittag. Das Finale wird um 14:30 Uhr heute Nachmittag hier im Cheb. Aber der Stettler, er hat keine Qualifying Heats gestern gewonnen, aber Konsistenz bei seinen Ergebnissen war wirklich stark. Er war Zweiter in seiner ersten und dritten Qualifying Heat, aber Dritter in den zweiten. So, interestingly enough, that Stettler will take the inside line. And there is Kevin Lantinga in the 4.32. Second race in KZ2 Cup as a rookie in the shifter class, but he's got teammate Kevin Wagner in the 444 right behind him. And then you look at this, 4.11, Mark Zvanich, the man from Thailand. 3 karts from TB Racing in the top six alone. But the last few drivers are in position as we wait for a couple of drivers at the back. One of which will be Lucy Zimilova, along with Lukas Lehnert and Julian Bub in the Deutsche Motorsport 469. Grüne Flagge am Hinten läuft. Und jetzt warten wir auf den Start für Superheat B. Stettler gegen Lantinga am ersten Haier. Los geht's! Gute Leistung, guten Start und außerseits geht der Lantinga und hat schon der Stettler überholt. Kevin Lantinga with a round the outside maneuver, got a launch and the kart really bit down on the traction phase through the second part of the start, and Lantinga now leads and he's already got a 6 kart length lead over Oliver Stettler. Max Hazel, unfortunately, has tumbled to the bottom of the order, the 484. Pech für der Nummer 484, Max Hazel von CV Performance Group mit JP Motorsport auf den Kart Republic. Leider Pech für der Deutsche. Der hat am Platz 16 gestartet, aber nach dem ersten Runde, 400, ist jetzt Lantinga mit einem Vorsprung über Oliver Stettler. 0,66 Sekunden nach dem ersten Runde, aber großes Unfall mit höherer Geschwindigkeit. Das war bevor dem Bremspunkt für den zweiten Kurve am Lange Gerade. So someone went shooting off, and that was Milan van Winden. The Dutchman has gone straight off. I mean, made contact with another kart. Might have been Valentin Knödel. And Van Winden went straight on. And that was a big, scary moment for the driver for MP Kart Racing. So hopefully he's back out. Well, it looks like he's back out on circuit, but I think it might have been Van Winden that has gone off. Let's see. Or was it somebody else? Let's have a look. Van Winden has tumbled. Yep, Milan Van Winden has tumbled down the order straight off into, and there he is. He's out of the kart. He's on his own 2 feet. So I'm very happy to see that Milan Van Winden eliminated early, and that is not going to help him. That might put him out of the top 36, because coming into this, he was 34th in points. Pech leider für der Holländer nach dem zweiten Runde von 16 hier in Superheat B bei KZ2 Cup. Der Holländer fliegt am Lange gerade bis zum Außerseitskurve Nummer 2. Und jetzt für der Pilot von MP Kart Racing auf den Henser Kart ist das Rennen vorbei. Und vielleicht könnte er nicht für den Top 36 Finale 14:30 Uhr heute Nachmittag nicht qualifizieren kann. Right, Black Flag, schwarze Flagge für Max Hesel. Und für der Deutsche von CV Performance Group mit JP Motorsport ist das Rennen leider vorbei für Max Hesel. Nochmal Pech für einen Pilot auf dem Feld. So Max Hesel, the CV Performance Group, and JP Motorsport on the Kart Republic. He has just been given the black flag, and he will take no further part in this competition. It looks like 32nd in points as Wagner robustly gets through on Tomasz Kurzela. That is the battle for P4. Und auch gibt es nochmal Positionwechsel hinter den Zweikampf. Nico Bogner hat am Platz 9 gestartet, jetzt ist er 6. Und er ist vorbei an Marcel Ernst in den 434. Und den letzten 3 Piloten in den Top 10 sind Max Svaric auf den 411, Adrins Martins der 495 und auf Platz 10 der 498 André Juba. So drama's already, and there's still plenty of racing going on. There's a 3-way scrap a little bit further back coming through out of the triangle at the top part of the circuit heading into the final sector. But Kevin Lantinga really is showcasing that his racecraft is something to bear witness to. And oh nein. Ich denke, es gibt Probleme nochmal für ein Pilot aus Deutschland, Valentin Knödel. Der 466. Der war beim Ranking After Heats auf Platz 16. Und bald ist das Rennen vorbei, auch bei der Julian Bob, der 469. Von der Motorsport, der war bei dem Ranking After Heats auf Platz 42 geworden. Leider ist das Rennwochenende für der deutsche Pilot vorbei. Gibt es auch noch mal ein großes Zweikampf hinter. Ich denke, dass es ist den Zweikampf zwischen Manuel Kestel auf Platz 2 und mit Oliver Städtler auf der 485. Jetzt Platz 3, 4. Der Nummer 444. Kevin Wagner auf 5. Der 413. Nico Bogner auf Platz 6. Thomas Kurzela, Max Svaric auf der 411 auf Platz 7. Der Österreicher Adrins Martins auf Platz 8. Der 495. Vorne aber jetzt Positionwechsel für Platz 9. Jetzt ist der 414. Erik West dabei. Vorne von Matej Kakowski. West hat am Platz 14 gestartet, jetzt ist er 9. Und der Kakowski hat auf Platz 18 gestartet, jetzt 10. vorne von der 434 Marcel Ernst. Starke Leistung bei Lukas Lennart, aber jetzt ist der Schädler vorbei an Kastel und der 406 auf dem Sodi-Kart kommt mit nochmal einem Angriff. an der 485. Wir sind halbzeitig und jetzt den Vorsprung, dass der Kevin Lantinga hat, der Pilot aus Holland, auf der 432. 1,25 Sekunden vorne von Oliver Städtler. So 1.25 seconds is the lead that Kevin Lantinga has got. And Lantinga got a second. Well, he's got well, so far this weekend, he's got a second, a third, and a fourth. And imagine that going into the final. Which driver might be able to say, yeah, I've got a win, I've got a second, I've got a third, I've got a fourth. Good consistency. Eric Vest, in the meantime, has just put in the fastest lap and is closing in on the Austrian driver, the 495 of Adrian Martins for TV Kart Racing. Mark Svaric has now moved up into P7 ahead of Martins. Vest and Kukowski round out the top 10, but now Städtler is starting to turn up or crank up the volume to level 11. And he's just put in the fastest lap of the race and was over 4/10 quicker than Lantinga. So it got the gap down from 1.25 to 0.8 of a second. So Lantinga is now going to have to do maybe a little bit of tyre conservation just to keep the rubber on the wheels within that optimum operating window. And sometimes that is easier said than done. But Städtler is again closing in and he's gone with a schnellste Runde seit jetzt bei der Pilot auf Platz 2, Oliver Städtler, 50,001. Und den Vorsprung ist jetzt über die letzten 2 Runden bei der deutsche Pilot gegen Lantinga sehr gekürzt worden, aber jetzt Angriff und geht der 413 vorbei. Aber da ist ein Kampf mit Kevin Wagner, Tomasz Kugela und Mark Svaric. Eric West ist jetzt vorbei, aber Adrian Martins ist leider nicht in den Top 10. Aber ich denke, das gibt Pech für der Österreicher in Sektor Nummer 3. Probleme und Pech für der Adrian Martins. So Adrian Martins, unfortunately, in Sector 3 has not come through, has not crossed the stripe. And on lap 11, looks like the Austrian is out of the running. But in some respects, Adrian Martins, P20. Now, whether that is going to affect his opportunity to be in the top 36 in the final, that is going to be something that will be decided when all the results are confirmed for Superheat A and Superheat B, whether he makes it through to the top 36 final at 2:30 p.m. local time. But now we see Kevin Lantinga versus Oliver Städtler. 3 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß-karierte Flagge. Und jetzt kommt das harte Angriff von Richtung Städtler gegen Lantinga. Aber wir warten auf, was passiert. Welche Strategie hat der Oliver Städtler. Aber es gibt nochmal Probleme am Kurve 2. Ich denke, wer war das denn? Vielleicht Lukas Lienert, der 443. Rennen ist leider vorbei am Runde Nummer 14 von 16. Und mit dem Zweikampf zwischen die beiden am Spitze des Felds, hier zwischen Lantinger und Städtler am letzten Runde. Das Vorsprung war vernichtet bei der Städtler. Und letzte Runde läuft. Lantinger versus Städtler. 1.2 kilometers to go. There were 59 thousandths apart across the line. And Städtler to the outside of Lantinger. Through into turn 2. Lantinger defends. Manuel Castell's not that far behind. But there is only this lap to go. Through the S-bend section. Very much in the vein of, looks very similar to the S-bend sections at Suzuka in Japan. And at the moment, Kevin Lantinger is parking the kart where he needs to. Trying not to cause himself any problems. Accelerate, get the traction down early. Städtler is going to try and maybe throw something magical at the Dutchman, who is on course for his first win this weekend. And it's going to be an important one. It is going to be the run to the line, to the final corner. It could be a photo finish. Kevin Lantinger holds on and wins Superheat B. How's about that for a fairy tale for the man from the Netherlands? A fourth, a second, a third, and now call that a race win. Well done, Kevin Lantinger for TB Kart, the TB Racing team. 76 thousandths was the winning margin after 16 laps. Oliver Städtler, the consistency continues for the 413. That was a great battle right down to the final lap of the race. So Lantinger, after 19.23 kilometers with an average speed of just under 84 kph, wins Superheat B and guarantees himself the opportunity to compete at the sharp end of the final later on this afternoon at 2:30 local time. Oliver Städtler, Manuel Castell, Nico Bognar and Kevin Wagner round out the top 5, followed by Tomasz Kugela, Eric Vess, Mark Zvalic rounds out the top 8, ahead of Marcel Ernst and Louis Esser, Jason Dovenstein, Karl Liesmer, Rick Hartmann, Lucy Zimilova, who did a really good job, started 22nd and finished in 14th, ahead of André Juba, Valentin Knödel, and Matej Kokowski, the last of our classified runners and riders. Lucas Lennart out on lap 13, Adrian Martins lap 10, Max Hazel lap 4, Julian Bub lap 2, and Milan van Vinden, unfortunately, went flying into the local greenery on lap 2 on turn 2. And his race came to an end. But Lantinger holds on, and Best Städtler with a photo finish across the line here in Superheat B for KZ2 Cup. Okay, we're about to get underway with our penultimate superheat of the weekend. We go to minis, but someone has just broken down coming out of the dummy grid. However, the rest of the field are on their way around the circuit here at Cheb for the mini superheat. 10 laps of this 1.202 kilometer circuit, and it is an all-Danish front row. Albert Poulsen, who has had a perfect score so far, pole position in 2 qualifying heat wins yesterday. He's got AF Competitions Mikas Toro Lundholm alongside. Then it's Leon Osai for Arena E team on the inside of row number 2 with CRG Holland's Leo Klock alongside. Noise Tulitka and Maddox Mason round out row 3 ahead of Vaclav Rumlena and Bastian Kleiner in the 3:15 for ADAC Motorsport. Then Jan Vavra and Ben Bernhardt for Lanari Racing round out the top 10, followed by Philip Flans and Leandros Margaraitis, Oscar Boimers, Matthias Cavulea, Ondrej Wilczynski, Sylvia Dobogai, Roman Meister, Alexander Brauchmann, Vincent Olverizo, Jay Vermeulen, Chris Leon Kalveit, Nick Meyer, Tiska Woldinger, Victorine Nevrova, Noah Kim and Pavel Brusek with Lucas Matis Brixius a non-starter. Looks like it was Jan Vavra that had the dramas coming out of the dummy grid and was slamming the steering wheel with the right hand in pure frustration. The mini drivers, 26 out of the 27 have taken to the circuit for the penultimate time. 8 laps with the distance for the qualifying heats yesterday. Now we add an additional 2.404 kilometers of total distance. But it is Poulsen versus Lundholm, the 2 Danes on the front end of the field as they are told to slow down. Looks like we might not, well, they've got to get into formation here. And into the tram lines we go. Revs rise. Are we going to go green? And it looks like we are going to go on to another formation lap. So yes, another full start called. So these drivers really are going to have to be under significant duress, even though they are the youngest drivers on the youngest drivers in the paddock. They have provided great close battling all the way through the weekend so far. But Albert Poulsen has ruled the roost, and it has been it's been a second place respectively for Leon Osai and Mikas Toro Lundholm, who took P2 behind countryman Albert Poulsen, who showcased prowess all the way through last season and continues to do so. Okay, right, we have got a red, I think we have got, yep, red flag stoppage, red flag stoppage. So, red flag has been called. So just waiting to, right, so let's see what happens here. Okay, they're being stopped just before the entry to the dummy grid. Okay, right, I did say at the beginning of the broadcast, there is light rain falling, or a slight shower, let's say. So, auf Deutsch, ein kleiner Dusches Regen hier im Cheb. Das ist warum. Wir haben schon eine rote Flagge nach dem ersten full start. So, now there is a decision that needs to be made. Now, the circuit is pretty much dry, as you can see in the background. The sky has gotten to a shade of grey in comparison, to what it was maybe, let's say, an hour ago. So we are currently under red flag stoppage conditions for the superheat for Mini. We still have this and OKN Junior left to go. So we are currently under red flag conditions after a full start. And right, okay, let's see what's going to happen here. Drivers are being informed as to... Right, trolleys are being prepped. Trolleys are being prepped, and it looks like we might have Yes, okay. Poulsen and Lundholm have gone into... But whether it is going to be significant enough in terms of the rainfall, if they put on those wet weather tyres, if the rain subsides, then that means the track is going to heat up, and thereby they will go through those wet tyres like nobody's business. Right, all I'm going to say is the rain shower has stopped. So, those drivers whose mechanics are not putting rain tyres on, no, and I can see trolleys being brought in. So, you might say, might play it safe and go on wet tyres. However, there is a big question, and I'm going to throw the Jensen-Button equation into this one. If anyone might remember, the Canadian Grand Prix 2011, Jensen-Button was the first driver to go back onto slick tyres, had 5 pit stops, which included contact between his teammate at the time, the man that would then go on to win 7 Formula 1 world titles, Sir Lewis Hamilton, and went off the track, but managed to win the race. So, it's dependent on what the driver's thought process is. And there is a discussion happening down on the escape road. So, we'll wait and see what happens, because there is a big discussion on whether the drivers are going to go on wets or whether they're going to go on slicks. So, hold the phone, folks. Stick with us. So, ein kleines Update von meiner Wenigkeit, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren. Neuer Rennstart bei Superheat 11:40 Uhr. Das ist in 10 Minuten. So, updated start time for the mini Superheat, 11:40. That is 10 minutes. And as we are now seeing, wet race sign has been shown. Wet race sign has been shown. So, so 11:40 is the now revised start time. So 10 minutes is the delay at this moment in time here for the mini superheat for the second round of DKM here at Kart Arena Cheb. As you can see, a lot of activities going to go on, but it is down to a joint decision between driver and mechanic, and if the driver feels that it's good enough to be on slicks, they may decide to chance it, but it is at their behest. So 11:40 is the new start time for the 10-lap mini superheats here at Kart Arena Cheb. Please stick with us.
Wir bewegen Deutschland. 22,6 Millionen Mitglieder. Wir kümmern uns um sie. Mehr als 3,6 Millionen Einsätze jährlich. Wir sind immer an ihrer Seite. In der Luft. Auf der Straße. Und auf der Rennstrecke.
Und jetzt geht sie los, die Saison! Motorsport vom Allerfeinsten.
Wir sind bei euch.
The season is about to roar into life.
Wo immer ihr seid. Von Anfang an. Bis Träume wahr werden.
The grid is very interesting.
Was für eine Show.
Radio check, 1, 2.
2700 Motorsport-Events. 150.000 Teilnehmer. 2 Millionen Zuschauer.
There is a massive crowd. Rad an Rad. Mehr geht nicht.
Und hinter all dem
Checking flag is out. Well done.
Weltklasse.
stehen 4 Buchstaben.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ADAC Motorsports YouTube channel for live coverage of round 2 of the Deutsche Kart-Meisterschaft for 2026 here at Kart Arena Cheb. Of course, we have had a slight delay to proceedings basically because of the very, very short rain shower here in the Czech Republic. We're around about 15 to 20 minutes off of the German-Czech border here at this 1,202 meter circuit. So we are T-minus 2.5 minutes from the new start time for the mini superheat, which will be over a duration of 10 laps of the circuit. With it being a very, very light shower, there is sun actually beating down on the roof of the main building. But with the weather having a changeable air about it, it will mean that we will also have a delay for our last superheat for OKN Junior. So, 1 Minute bis zum Start für den Superheat am heutigen Sonntagmorgen hier in Kart Arena Cheb für den Mini-Klasse. Renndistanz ist 10 Runden von dieser 1202 Meter langen Streckenkurs hier in Kart in Cheb in Tschechien. So 30 seconds to go. Drivers now are ready, and then when the green flag waves, we will then be setting off for the formation lap. So a complete restart, as we did not even complete the even the first lap because we had a full start. Then the red flag was called when the slight shower hit the circuit. So now the engines fire up and we are underway. So, hier ist die Startaufstellung für den Mini-Superheat. Auf der Pole startet der Däner Albert Paulsen. Und auf seine andere Seite seine Landesmann Mikos Toro Lunsholm auf die erste Reihe. Reihe Nummer 2 Lian Osai und Leo Klock. Dann Noe Sulitka, Maddox Mason, Václav Rumlena, Bastian Kleine, Jan Wawra und der Ben Bernhard. Der Startnummer 381 startet auf Platz 10. And that is ahead of Philip Flans, Leandros Margaraitis, Oscar Boimers, Matthias Kavulea, Andrei Veliczynski, Silvia Dobogay, Roman Meister, Alexander Brauchmann, Vincent Oliver Rizzo, Jay Vermeulen completes the top 20 ahead of Christian Kalveit, Nick Meyer, Tieska Waldinger from the Netherlands, Viktoria Nevrova from the Czech Republic, Noah Kim and Pavel Brušek bringing up the rear of the field as the two Danes will lead us to green here for the 10-lap superheat. The red lights are on the starting gantry. They split, head into the tram lines, and it is going to have to be an even start for us to get going. We're revs up. Are we going to be green? And it is another false start, I'm afraid. So Sylvia Dobogaj is now another non-starter. The 316 from the Czech Republic brings us down to 25 runners in this 10-lap superheat. So this will be attempt number 4 of trying to get this race started. Obviously full start, red flag, full start. And the big thing is that the outside of the front row was not at the same point as the inside of the front row. So Mikas Toro Lundsholm is going to have to be right alongside Albert Poulsen. Through the top of the triangle they go, heading into the final sector. Und, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, wir sind bereit für nochmal einen Versuch, dieses Superheat für unsere Mini-Piloten nochmal wieder am Start bleiben. Und hoffentlich dieses Mal wird der Start freigegeben. Aber wir sehen, was passiert. Okay. Past the points of no return, as it is Poulsen and Lundsholm on the front row, an all-Danish front row, both on the Paralin chassis. Poulsen on pole, Lundsholm alongside, into the tram lines, revs up, lights are on. And we are racing. They have reduced the race distance to 9 laps. And I think maybe Leo Klock went out of the tram lines, so broke formation into turn 2 for the first time. Aber jetzt am Spitze des Felds bleibt der nee, leider ist der Poulsen nicht am Führender. Jetzt ist der Lundsholm am vorne, an Position Nummer 1. Klock jetzt Dritter, vorne von Ossai. Mason auf 5. 3 breit am ganz Hinter des Felds. Aber jetzt ist der Poulsen jetzt am vorne von Lundsholm. Jetzt gehen wir von Sektor 2 bis zum Sektor 3. So, Albert Poulsen from Denmark. For Poulsen Motorsport leads the way. AF Competitions. Albert Poulsen has got CRG Hollands through and up the inside of him at turn 1 and takes second position. Und jetzt einen großen Zug am vorne des Felds von Poulsen. Vorne von Klock, Lundsholm, Mason innerseits an der Däner. Kann er vorbeigehen, leider nicht. Und auch haben wir Rumlena, Bastian Kleiner. Ist in dieses ganz großes Kampf am Spitze des Felds. But a big train, long train. Poulsen was literally leading about 10 to 11 carts at the front end of the field. But now things are starting to spread out a little bit. Und leider gibt es ein bisschen Pech für der Leon Ossai. Der hat am Platz 3 gestartet, jetzt ist er 12. Schnellste Runde seit bei der 309. Jandos Margaritis, 59,330. Aber jetzt kommt das Angriff von Richtung Klock gegen Poulsen. Und auch ist der Südafrikaner auf Platz 3, Maddox Mason. Und der Klock sieht, was möglich ist, um der Albert Poulsen jetzt zu überholen. Aber leider kann nichts passieren im Moment. Aber der Südafrikaner am Platz 3 versucht nochmal vorbeigehen an der Leo Klock. Ein Vierkampf an Spitze des Felds. Poulsen gegen Klock, Mason und Lundsholm. Aber jetzt ist der Clock vorbei am Führenden. Jetzt ist der 394 aus Holland. Und jetzt Kontakt zwischen die beiden Diener. Mit einem Zweikampf über Platz 3. Jetzt ist der Lundholm vorbei am Poulsen. Poulsen kommt wieder zurück. Vorne und vorbei an seinen Landesmann. But it is now Leo Clock and Maddox Mason that are leading the way at the front of the field. And there was contact between Lundholm and Poulsen for P3. So at this moment in time, Albert Poulsen's 100% success rate is at risk. But Maddox Mason is closing in on Leo Clock, the South African, trying to do what he can to get past the driver from the Netherlands up front. So Leo Clock running with CRG Holland, Maddox Mason running with the Lanari Racing Team. And Mason is right on the rear bumper of the Dutchman, going through into the tight and twisty infield section. Und jetzt im Moment für der Ben Bernhard, der 381 aus Deutschland. Hat auf Platz 10 gestartet, jetzt Sechster. Für nochmal ein Pilot von Lanari Racing Team, Teamkollege von Maddox Mason, der im Moment nochmal wieder bleibt am Platz 2. So, we're past the half distance, we're on to lap 6 out of 9. And Mason is absolutely chomping at the bit, but he's waiting patiently. Poulsen sets the new fastest lap of the race for the 58.761. Mason is still trying to find his way through. But at the moment, the driver from Lanari Racing has just been jumped as in to the inside goes Albert Poulsen. And, well, it looks like Lundholm has got Vaclav Rumlena closing in and trying to go through. I think that is the case, that the 385 has made the move stick. No, it's actually, well, that is Maddox Mason that's now down into P3 and has got Mikas Toro-Lonsholm right behind. So still 3 laps to go until the end of the race. Wir haben 3 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge für diesen Superheat. Und bleibt der Leo Clock an Spitze des Felds im Moment, aber Versuch bei Jan Wawra. Und jetzt vorbei am Vaclav Rumlena. Die beiden Piloten von Tschetschen kämpfen gegeneinander für Platz Nummer 6. So after this, we'll have 2.404 kilometers left of racing to go here in this mini superheat. Leo Clock is going to bring us on to the penultimate lap. So lap 8 out of 9 underway, and then next time around it will be the last lap to go. But Poulsen is closing him down. So is Mason, who's just put in the fastest lap of the race. 58.339 by the South African. As you can just see, both Poulsen and Mason were sideways coming out of turn number 3 as Poulsen goes for the race lead and gets through on Leo Clock. And here comes Maddox Mason, the South African, manages to just about get through, but he's wheel to wheel with Leo Clock. And then here comes Lundholm with a big lick of speed, and he's through. So my goodness me, Leo Clock has just dropped from the lead down to 4th position. And don't count out Ben Bernhard, the 381. But it's going to be one more lap to go. 1,202 metres. Can Poulsen keep the streak alive? Mason showed his nose to the Dane in front as we go on to the last lap. Clock retakes P3 from Lundholm through turn 1. Maddox Mason is trying to do the old undercut, and he's got the job done. Maddox Mason from South Africa now leads. Was für ein Angriff von der Südafrikaner Maddox Mason. Und jetzt hat er ein großes Vorteil über der Albert Poulsen, der Pilot aus Dänemark. Der bleibt jetzt auf Platz 2, vorne von Leo Klock, der jetzt ist Dritter, vorne von Lundsholm und der Ben Bernhard, der Nummer 381. Aber was für eine Überraschung dieses Wochenende hier in Superheat bei Minis. But what a run it's been. It's going to be celebrations as South Africa will celebrate. Maddox Mason will win the Superheat. What a job by the young man from Lanari Racing Team, winning after 9 laps by 0.6 of a second. Albert Poulsen, nevertheless, with that result, will put himself onto pole position for the final. But it just goes to show that one move, one decision, and Maddox Mason's move round the outside to get the crisscross done on the Dane was absolutely mighty. Aber Gratulation an der Pilot von Südafrika, Maddox Mason, Startnummer 329. Sieger bei Superheat in Minis am heutigen Sonntagmorgen. And after 9 laps, the Lanari Racing Team's racing team drivers winning margin 0.6 of a second ahead of Albert Poulsen, with Leo Klock, Mikas Toro Lundsholm and Ben Bernhard rounding out the top 5. Jan Wawra, Vaclav Rumlena and Noé Solidka round out the top 8 ahead of Germany's Leandros Margaritis, who made up 3 places from 12th on the grid and finished ahead of Bastian Kleiner, who completed the top 10. Auf Platz 11, Matthias Cavalier, Platz 12, Oscar Bäumers, dann Roman Meister, Leon Osei, Philipp Franz auf Platz 15, Jay Vermeulen finishes 16th ahead of Andrei Wilazinski, Alexander Brauchmann, Vincent Oliverizo und auf Platz 20 der 306, Chris Leon Kalveit, Nick Meyer, Noe Kim, Viktorina Vlova, Tiske Waldinger and Pavel Brušek round out all finishers that completed the total race distance, with Sylvia Dobogay and Lucas Matis Brixius a non-starter. But Maddox Mason upsets the Danish apple cart by winning the Superheat.
absolutely neck and neck. As always, GT4 Germany entertaining right there.
So, nach einem spannenden Mini-Superheat. Wir gehen zum letzten Superheat. Und jemand hat ein kleines Problem über Start und Ziel. Dabei seine Mechaniker gepusht werden. Vielleicht eine von den CRG-Truppe. Aber wir werden, ich werde jetzt kurz über die Startaufstellung sprechen. Henry Möhring, Clean Sweep, soweit dieses Wochenende, Pole Position gestern Morgen und beide Qualifying Heats gewonnen. Milan Rossi auf seiner rechten Seite am ersten Reihe. Dann Matteo Mason und Sebastian Brandt auf Reihe Nummer 2. Dritte Reihe Timothy Dobogai und Paul Bernhard, vorne von Dindrich Svoboda, Martin Zimmermann, Nikolai Danilev und von nochmal ein Südafrika auf die Startaufstellung der 288. Uwe Maritz auf Platz 10. Then it's Carlos Nees and Gustav Christensen on row 6, Patrick Ray-Heinert and Jonathan Meyer on row 7. Followed by Ben Ozdemir, Pedro Mikes, Amelie Hoivers, Emilia Olas, Bruno Greiling, Stavros Totos Francia, Nick Reed, Milos Beginski from Poland, Marketa Rumlanova, Edin Kisahovic, Alex Heuser, Christian Himmel Rasmussen, Diego Battaglia, Pierre Wolf and Elliot Spangtoff from Denmark, who unfortunately for AF competition on the Paralym is going to start way back because didn't score many points in Heat 2 where we saw multiple drivers not having the greatest opening couple of laps, and there was a bit of discussion after that. Huvan Maritz, it looks like it was the one that was being pushed, so the South African is probably not going to be taking any part in this race. And that'll be a real shame for the CRG Holland driver. But Matteo, the older brother of Maddox, Mason, who we've just seen in action, can the Mason family do it again? Well, everything's possible. Renndistanz dieses Mal bei Superheat 1300 von dieser 1202 Meter Streckenkurs hier am Katharina Cheb in Chechen. So 13 laps of the 1,202 meter circuit here in the Czech Republic. And it is Möhring versus Rossi that will lead us to the start. And everyone's got to start closing in very quickly. There's a big grid, 29 drivers. Make that 28 with Huvan Maritz not taking to the start. Into the tram lines we go. Lights are on the gantry. Revs up, lights on. And we head into turn 1 for the first time. 3 wide in the mid-pack. As Henry Möhring leads the way. I think maybe, yes, Matteo Mason has got through on Milan Rossi for second position. So the chase begins in earnest. And Christian Himmel Rasmussen has also come to a stop. So 2 drivers eliminated before the start has even taken place. Marnitz coming out of the dummy grid, and Himmel Rasmussen unfortunately out early doors. So Möhring versus Mason. Der 214 von der Motorsport. Das ist ein Teil des Junior-Team Deutschland. Von der Südafrikaner nach dem ersten Runde. Vorsprung zwischen Möhring und Mason. Mason versucht einerseits an Kurve Nummer 1 und er ist vorbei. Und geht jemand ein bisschen breit nach Kurve Nummer 1 und jetzt den Zweikampf zwischen Brandt und Svoboda für Platz 4. Ich denke, dass es Svoboda ist jetzt vorbei, aber Mason jetzt am Führenden vorne von Möhring. Rossi auf Dritte. Brandt, Svoboda und jetzt Positionwechsel am Führenden. Jetzt ist der Möhring vorbei am Mason. Und jetzt kommt den Dreikampf. Und Mason, hoi, das war wirklich eng von der Südafrikaner. Der versucht nochmal, der Möhring jetzt überholen, aber das passiert nicht. Jetzt kommt der Rossi. Oi, 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 wirklich ganz eng. Mit Geräusche von die Tribüne am Start und Ziel, das habe ich schon gehört. And Mason is now through. Matteo Mason gets through. And now goes Rossi. Now goes Svoboda. Möhring is down to 4th. And Möhring's going to fight back through the inside at turn 2. And he goes a little bit deep. And Henry Möhring finds himself between a rock and a hard place at the moment. Driver that's part of the junior, part of Motorsport Team Germany, part of the junior division. And he's through on Svoboda, who just gets a little tap from behind, courtesy of Paul Bernhard. And now here comes Carlos Nies. Jetzt kommt der 222 im großen Kämpfen, Spitze des Felds. Absolut wahnsinnig. Rennaktion auf die Strecke hier im Kart-Arena Cheb bei den Superheat für OKN Junioren. But it is going to be the fact that it's a Lanari 1-2 at the moment. Matteo Mason and Milan Rossi leading the way. Möhring now back up to P3. And Milan Rossi did put in the fastest lap, but it's Bruno Greuling down in 20th. The driver from the Arena A Junior Team Saxon outfit. 53.918. As, oh no, over the back bumper goes the 242 of Sebastian Brandt. And that was on Carlos Nies' back bumper, I think. So a real shame there. That just goes to show how close the margins are between these drivers. They are incredibly competitive. But on lap number 4, Matteo Mason and Milan Rossi leading a Lanari Racing Team 1-2. Möhring is starting to get a little bit of wind back into his sails and he's trying to chase them down. So 4 laps in the books, 9 to go. Matteo Mason continues to lead. Schnellste Runde seit jetzt nach Runde Nummer 4 von 13 bei der Henry Möhring auf Startnummer 214. 53,236 bei der junge Deutsche. Aber der Südafrikaner Matteo Mason bleibt am vorne von seinem Teamkollege am Lanari Racing Team, der 244 Milan Rossi. Recht für der Pilot aus Polen, der 267, Miloš Beginski, jetzt auf Platz 27. Dann Platz 22. Oh, okay. Gibt es noch mal ein kleines Unfall, denke ich, ganz in die Nähe von Post 6. Aber leider wäre das vielleicht... okay. Es gibt 2 verschiedene Unfälle. So, ich habe schon geguckt auf den Live-Timing. Patrick Reinhardt 209, Spangdorf 285 und Emilio Olaus Startnummer 281. Aber hier kommt nochmal wieder den Dreikampf am Spitze des Felds. Mason gegen Rossi, gegen Möhring. So Matteo Mason, Milan Rossi, Henry Möhring, the three-way battle for the race lead and the victory here in the Superheat. And bearing in mind, Henry Möhring came into this with a total score of 100 points. Both Rossi and Mason tied on 85 apiece. And this could very well decide how the front row is going to line up on our last final of the weekend here for round 2 of the German Kart Championship 2026 here at Kart Arena Cheb. But Matteo Mason last time round did the fastest lap of the race, 52.772 by the young South African. And it has been a flying formation for the team at Linari. But Möhring is going to start pulling a little bit more pace and start to get really getting things worked up here, get the adrenaline flowing and get the motivation to chase them down. And he's put in the fastest opening sector and last sector. And Henry Möhring now makes it the top 3 covered by 7 tenths. Nochmal eine schnellste Runde seit dieses Rennen bei der Deutsche, der 214 Henry Möhring von ADAC Motorsport. Rundezeit von 52,456. So Milan Rossi now takes purple in sector 1. Matteo Mason makes a personal best, was only 4/1000 slower. So unfortunately we have 3 retirements. Emilia Urlaus in the 281. Elliot Spankhoff in the 285 from Denmark, and Germany's Patrick Reinhardt in the 209. They are out, so we're down to 24 runners and riders. As next time around we will have 5 laps to go as we are about to complete lap number 8. Matteo Mason controlling proceedings here on the Linari Racing Team 228, and the lead between him and teammate Milan Rossi is just over 2 tenths of a second. Mason has got to park it on the racing line, not allow or afford any opportunity to go the way of Milan Rossi or Henry Möhring. Aber hinter der Möhring ist der 222 von Nies Racing. Der Carlos Nies, der ist ungefähr 1,6 Sekunden hinter der 214 auf Platz 3. Dann auf Platz 5 der Pilot aus Tschetschen, Gingerich Svoboda, der 218 von Hagemann Racing. Und er ist in Gingerich Svoboda ist jetzt in einem Zweikampf mit der Paul Bernhard, der 224 von natürlich Team 25 Bernhard. Was instigated by a man who's now a Porsche brand ambassador, Timo Bernhard. Starke Leistung für der 224 auf Platz 6. Aber nach dieser Runde haben wir nur 3 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge. So 3 laps to go after this one until the checkered flag. And now Milan Rossi has been passed by Henry Möhring for P2. Matteo Mason so far has controlled proceedings, but can the South African hold on in the latter stages of this race? That is the big question that he needs to ask of himself right now. And I'm sure that there is no stretch of the imagination of what that young South African can do. And now a change for the lead. Jetzt ist der Henry Möhring vorbei an Matteo Mason. Und jetzt ist 214, jetzt am Führenden dieses Rennen. Und wir haben nochmal einen Sektor, aber nochmal Angriff kommt von Richtung Matteo Mason auf Platz 2 und wartet immer auf Platz 3 für seine Chance. Das ist der 244, der Milan Rossi. Und mit 2 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge. Hier kommt am Platz 4, ganz am vorne kommt der Carlos Nies. 7 Zehntel, 1 Sekunde zwischen den Top 4 in dieses Rennen. Mit 1,5 Runden bis zum schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge. 7 tenths cover the top 4 as Carlos Nies makes it a 4-way fight for the victory, because at the moment, Henry Möhring, can he hold on? Because any one of those three drivers are more than capable of taking that lead away from him and going on their way to victory. Matteo Mason has been the most dominant out of the top three so far this race, but Möhring will bring us on to the white flag lap. Last lap board this time for Henry Möhring. Letzte Runde live bei unserem letzten Superheat hier bei Runde Nummer 2 DKM 2026. Aber versucht nochmal den Wechsel bei Matteo Mason und ist schon jetzt vorbei am letzten Runde, am Kurve Nummer 3. Der Südafrikaner hat es nochmal geschafft. Matteo Mason has just done exactly what brother Maddox has already done in the mini superheat. But it's going to be a run to the line here. They're going to go into the final sector. And, oh, sideways from Mason, Möhring to the outside. Here comes Rossi. And watch out for Carlos Knees. It is going to be the run to the line. Lanari Racing, they could have double delight here in the superheats. It's going to be the run to the line. Matteo Mason, can he hold on? It's going to be a photo finish. It's going to be Möhring. Möhring by 39 thousandths and Matteo Mason denied at the line. Absoluter Wahnsinn, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren. Was für ein Ende zum letzten Superheat bei OKN Junioren. Und ich denke dann am Schultern der Henry Möhring, das kommt viel Glück damit, dieses Ende. 0,039 Sekunden von ersten bis zum zweiten Platz über Start und Ziel mit schwarz-weiß karierter Flagge. Gratulation, Henry Möhring. What can you say? Matteo Mason, hold your head up high, my friend. You definitely earned that victory. But unfortunately, Henry Möhring does take another victory by 39 thousandths. The closest race win we've seen this weekend, and with it comes a maximum score. Third place, Carlos Knees, ahead of Milan Rossi with Gingerich Svoboda, Sebastian Brand, Paul Bernhard, Gustav Christensen. Well, Bruno Groening, well done. Ninth place, having started 19th, ahead of Edin Kesahovic, who started 24th, finishes P10. Some great performances by some of the drivers in this race. Peter Mikes, 11th, ahead of Marketa Humlinova. Marvin Zimmerman, Amelie Hoivers and Nicola Daniliv rounding out the top 15 with Timothy Dobogai, Ben Ozdemir, Alex Heuser, Stavros Tosos Francia, Diego Patalia rounds out the top 20 ahead of Milos Baginski, Nick Reed, Pierre Wolf being the last of the classified runners and riders, with Jonathan Meyer out on lap 12, Emilia Olaus, Elliot Spangtoft and Patrick Ray Reinhardt out on lap 5, with Huvan Maritz and Christian Himmel Rasmussen not able to take the start. And that concludes this morning's action here at Kart Arena Cheb. So, das war's für heutigen Sonntagmorgen bei den Superheats für Runde Nummer 2. Deutsche Kart-Meisterschaft, Saison 2026 hier in Tschechien bei Kart Arena Cheb. Was für ein spannendes Morgen mit großes, hartes Rennaktion auf die Strecke. Aber wir müssen leider Bescheid sagen, dass wir sehen uns ein bisschen später heute Nachmittag für die Finalen live und direkt hier in Tschechien auf den YouTube-Kanal bei ADAC Motorsports. Am 13 Uhr geht das wieder los hier in Tschechien. Und von meiner Wenigkeit euer Moderator dieses Wochenende, Alex Goldschmidt. Wir sehen uns.